And joining me here in Xiamen, we have Ms. Lindiwe Zulu, who is the South African Minister of Small Business Development. Minister Zulu, welcome to our program.
Thank you very much. I always see you on the program, and today I see you live.
Thank
very
you.
Happy.
Very flattered, and great to have our friends from South Africa as well.
Yes, absolutely. We are very happy to be at this 9th BRICS Summit, and also excited about the fact that next year the BRICS Summit will be in South Africa. So there's a lot that we are looking at and ensuring that there's lessons learned so that when it comes to South Africa, we're very ready for the heads of state to come to South Africa.
You are the very first Minister of Small Enterprise Development, and you have to coordinate everyone, to contribute to this. How does that work?
I think what is very important is the recognition by South Africa, ultimately, of the importance of small and medium enterprises, and in particular in our case as South Africa, addressing the triple challenges that we face: poverty, unemployment and inequality, and also bringing on board thousands of other people, black people in particular, who were never in the mainstream economy of South Africa. I think that's the first and most important thing. The second issue is that understanding that small and medium enterprises are the job creators, and South Africa needs jobs. We've been shedding jobs a lot, especially because the economy has not been doing very well, and therefore we understand that if we were to also focus on building part of our economy, we'll also rely on how much we assist of small and medium enterprises.
I see. But how long a time frame are we talking about? If we're talking about these kind of fundamental changes, it takes a lot of time. Will small and medium-sized companies, establishment of them, really likely to change the whole picture?
Yes, absolutely. One of the most important elements of our economic development is the fact that we are saying we need to change the structure of the economy of South Africa.
How?
In other words, it means we must change the management of the economy so that it also benefits those that were not benefited in the past. And we think that encouraging small and medium enterprise will be but one of the elements, but a very important element, especially in today's time. More so when we look at other developed countries in particular, most of them speak to big figures that indicate that if you support small and medium enterprises, you create more jobs, you create more innovation. And so as a country, we're looking at ensuring that we support small and medium enterprises. All the ministers in government are very supportive. And as a Minister of Small Business Development, I am asking, what is it they have in their departments to support, including the budget? If they have 9 billion or 30 billion, I'm asking the question, how much of that will go to small businesses?
Your colleagues will approach you, or they would run away when they see you?
Oh, no, they don't run away. They don't run away because it is important also to them.
The other thing about small and medium-sized enterprises is on what basis can the BRICS countries work together? Remember at the very beginning of the BRICS Business Forum, Chinese President Xi Jinping, in his opening remark, was already talking about small and medium-sized enterprises. Later, in the following days and sessions, different kinds of state leaders coming from different countries also emphasis on that. But the question is how?
The first and most important thing is the acceptance by all BRICS partners of the importance of growing our economies.
And that is already done.
Yes, we start there. And then growing the economies for who? That's the issue. If you are going to be growing the economies for the benefit of your citizens, it means you cannot ignore small and medium enterprises, because as I said earlier on, they will be the creators of the jobs. And I'm happy that within BRICS itself, already there is, under the Ministers of Trade, there is an agreement of including the discussions about small and medium enterprises, access to markets, because there's access to all 5 countries. There's markets, we should be markets of each other.
Right.
And therefore it's important for us that in all the decisions that we make, whether it's about the BRICS Bank and how the bank can be able to be supportive, whether it's about economic trade and how that can happen, and the fact that we have the Business Forum, we also fall under the Business Forum, and therefore the Business Forum has to be conscious of your small and medium enterprises. Growing the economies of all countries is not always about big companies. It's also about small and medium enterprises, and also the opportunities for smaller companies to grow into bigger companies. It can happen through BRICS.
It is the efficiency that we're talking about. It is the development for all that we're talking about here.
In fact, we are going to be bringing a delegation of 50 small and medium enterprises to China in October under SISMEF, which is part of it's a Chinese arranged, and I am going to be leading that South African delegation of small and medium enterprises.
Almost 10 years. How do you see BRICS evolve over the years and the current challenges compared to then the grand picture?
It was a plan, not so big a plan, but 10 years down the line, that plan, we can see it. That plan has taken shape. We are now going to the next decade of BRICS, and the countries are very clear about the priority areas. It's peace, security, and stability for all the countries, is creating friendship between those countries, is ensuring that there's a win-win situation for all the countries. But more than that, BRICS is beginning to be realized as a force in the global environment to contributing towards building a better world. Because I think what the world really needs right now is really a better world where we deal with terrorism, we deal with climate change, we deal with all the challenges that the continent, the whole world faces today. This is a giant which started rising slowly, and now people can see the giant is standing.
But people still ask about the BRICS relevancy. People ask about the BRICS. Will they be still together for the future, or whether there's competition, cooperation? Briefly, what is your view?
It's cooperation, coordination, and having the same interest and speaking for our people. Because if BRICS was just individual heads of state, it would be a different story altogether. That's the reason why under BRICS we're also looking at people-to-people relations at cultural level, at education level, science and technology, the revolution.
Becoming much more comprehensive than it used to be.
Absolutely. And it is beginning to occupy a bigger scale in the world because everyone is looking at it. And you know that there's a BRICS bank also.
That's
right. And in South Africa, we recently launched the regional bank office, which therefore means where BRICS started 10 years ago as just as a small idea and an opportunity, that opportunity can be seen by the entire world that it's going to happen.
But it is no secret that all these countries in the BRICS are not without challenges, as all of you have recognized. So what about for South Africa? We know the National African Congress is about to have an election at the end of this year. We also know there are certain kinds of discussions about where South Africa to go from here. What do you say about these political situations back at home? How much will they impact on the economic development and the ideas of even developing and prospering small and medium-sized enterprises?
Let me start by saying that democracy in South Africa is only 23 years old. So even the African National Congress as a governing party is only 23 years old. And therefore the dynamics of the new and the old will always be there. I think what is important is that we've been very consistent.
What is the new?
The new is the new political environment where you have opposition now, which we didn't have in the past, where you've really got people who now have choices, and therefore we have to all show what we can deliver and make sure that people continue to vote for the African National Congress. But also the ANC is an institution that has got its own institutional processes. The constitution of the African National Congress says every 5 years there has to be an election of new leadership. We just came out of the policy conference of the ANC where we were looking at the current policies and saying what of the current policies needs to be changed. And then the December conference will then will adopt those policy conferences that we developed. So it's work in progress for South Africa to in fact, the fact that we can sit as a BRICS member for ourselves only 23 years after our democracy is something that we celebrate as a country.
Minister Zulu, I understand as a very young girl, you participated already in the movement of the ANC.
Yes.
And of course, things have changed, priorities changed. But what do you think about the involvement of this party as well, about its capabilities to be built in order to compete for the future?
Yes, absolutely. The party also adopted its own organizational renewal, which is a document that is looking at what the party needed to do during the liberation struggle and what the party needs to do under democracy, where there's freedom for all, and governing, being the one that is in government, the one that really plans for the changing of the lives of our people through the programs that we would have, whether it's in economic development, whether it's social development, whether it's health, education, and all those areas. This is a party that is very relevant to today, considering the fact that this is the party that really made sure that South Africa was free and that we do have freedom today. We didn't do that on our own. We worked with all our communities. I joined the African National Congress when I was young, and I've been in it since then. I've never left, and I can see where the organization is going. It's all about changing the lives of ordinary people in South Africa.
Will the competition be fiercely?
Yes, it will be fiercely because, again, that's the new environment that I was talking about. In the past, it never was such an issue. It never was so fearful. But right now, people have the right to stand up and say, I think I am capable of being a president. And therefore, they need to then talk to the branches. The branches have to decide.
Right.
Ultimately, with all the contestation that is happening, December is only 3 months down the line. Members of the African National Congress, delegates to the conference, will decide on who they want as a president of the African National Congress.
It's so wonderful to have you.
My pleasure.
Minister Zulu, to be on our program to talk about not only small and medium-sized enterprises, but also the overall development process of the BRICS as a whole. All the best.
Thank you very much.
Madam Minister.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.